Hello everyone, it's time for a new 909 video, and in this episode we will tackle the hi-hat voice of the TR909. A good way of starting to do that is by having a quick look in the block diagram of the service manual, as we usually do. If we start at the input section, we have the trigger and the open-close selection inputs that controls the envelope generator. There are two pots to control the decay of open and closed hi-hat, respectively. The labeling in the diagram is a little bit weird, but never mind. There is also a signal that is routed to the oscillator and the timing circuit, so we will get back to that one later. The oscillator and the timing circuit defines the sampling rate that is used for reading out data from the non-volatile memory. And it also generates clock signals to provide timing signals for the address counters and the output latch. The hi-hat sample is stored in the memory with the open hi-hat in the lower half of the memory and the closed hi-hat in the upper part. The close-open input signal is used to select which part of the memory that is accessed. The input trigger signal will reset the counter, and it will immediately start counting from 0 and send out samples until it reaches the end. The digital to analog converter has 6 bits of resolution, and it's made using a simple resistor network. The signal is routed to the VCA, and after that through an anti-aliasing low-pass filter, and finally through the output buffer stage. The accent level is used to control the amplitude of the logarithmic output that is fed to the VCA. The TR909 schematic diagram is a little bit messy, so I recommend looking at the 1990 schematics instead, if you want to have a closer look at the circuit. Okay, so the original 909 used mask-programmed ROMs to store the samples, but we will use EPROMs. And I actually found some old UV-EPROMs from back in the days when I was building my own personal computer from scratch. The oldest chip is 40 years old. But anyway, to program them you will need an EPROM programmer. And before you can do that, you will have to erase them by sunbathing them in UV light for a while. I actually have a UV lamp that I have been using for curing 3D printed resin. So let's try that. If I remember correctly from back in the day, you have to expose the EPROM for 30 minutes or so to erase the data. I also have this T48 programmer, and I will use that for programming the samples into the EPROM. I blank checked the EPROM a couple of times, but after a total of exposing the EPROM for 12 hours, I still had the contents in the memory. So this method is clearly not working. And if we look into the datasheets of the EPROM, the wavelength should be 2537 ångström, or 254 nanometer, if you prefer that. So the UV lamp is specified at 365 nanometer in the UVA spectrum, but we clearly need something that is working in the UVC range. So let's get a proper EPROM eraser and use that instead. This did indeed work much better, and now we can finally erase the EPROM. And after a successful programming, we finally have the sample stored in the EPROM. Okay, let's start breadboarding and see if we can get it to work. But first, let's have a look at the clock generator. It provides a quadrature clock that is used for providing the timing of the sample playback. We can tune it by adjusting the frequency of the oscillator. Next we have the full circuit up and running. And we can tune it up and down. And we can also adjust the decay time of the open and closed hi-hat. One more thing before I leave. If you want to use a more modern alternative to EPROMs, it's possible to use EEPROMs like the ones from WinBond instead. With these you still need a programmer, but you don't need a separate EPROM eraser. But that's all for today. In the next episode we will dive into the schematic, figure out what the front panel design should look like, and we will of course build it and try it out. But until then, take care and I see you soon. Goodbye and thank you for watching.